Good morning, everyone. I'm going to start this off by saying I've never actually held one of these mics before while talking for a long period of times. So if my hand drags down or comes too far up, I'm very sorry about that. I'm not used to holding this, so just got to get that out there. It's great to be back here. Great to see a lot of your faces again. Great to meet a lot of you guys. If you don't know much about me, my name is Ethan Sessions. I was born in Fairbury, Nebraska. And when I was around 8 years old, I moved to Belleville, Kansas. I grew up there, went to school, met my wife, Rusty Bassett, now Rusty Sessions. So that's her over there. And thank you. Yeah, I'm really lucky. So, and I'm now currently a junior at MCC in Manhattan Christian College, studying pastoral ministry, so I can come here and do this for a living. All right. If you guys want to know anything else about me later, feel free to ask. I'm an open book. I'll tell you guys anything you want to know. But I'm glad I get to come down here and preach to you guys and tell you guys like the stuff that's moving in my life and what I'm feeling called to talk to you guys about. And I always have this feeling as a Christian of not knowing the right answers. Growing up, you hear all these questions that Christians get, like just really hard questions that people ask them. And, well, when I decided to be a Christian, I knew I was going to have people ask me those questions, and I knew I had those questions myself. And I came into being a Christian around 8th grade is when I really was committed to Christianity and committed to my life with Christ. And I came into becoming a Christian with a lot of questions that I thought this book would answer, I'm pretty sure I have more questions now after reading it multiple times. I found out that this is a great story, and it tells us a lot about life, but it's not an answer book. Because there's a lot of questions that, as Christians, we can't answer. And one of the biggest ones I always get when talking to people that aren't in the faith is, how can you serve a God that lets evil into this world? And I don't know how to answer that one. I don't have a great answer for anyone that wants to know that. But what I can say is there's a lot of things in this world that happen and we don't understand why, and it's okay. See, I have a cool story. I got pretty bored during COVID, so I needed something to do, I can't just sit at home all the time. So I picked up a new sport that you can play alone. It's called disc golf. I don't know if anyone knows about it, but it's poor man's golf. So if anyone out there likes golf, I play the worser version, but it's fun. It's fun to play alone. And I started talking to my friend that was playing, and because I wanted to learn how to play, and he's like, "Oh, it's a cheap sport to get into. You only really need 3 discs, and it's really fun." And I was like, "All right." And so just like golf, you have a driver, which is this little thing, and it's thin, so it can cut through the air. And then you have a mid-range, which is a little thicker. And then you have your putter, which is really thick. That way that the wind doesn't affect it as much. And so I came into the sport thinking, oh, this is going to be easy. Yeah, you just throw a frisbee. And I came to find out that there's so many different discs that do different things. So you see this mid-range, it's really thick. And I don't know if you guys can tell, but it has like a big bump on the top. And the big bump basically means that it's going to fly differently how you throw it. And so you could throw one and it's going to go right, and you can throw the same exact motion with a different disc and it will go left. I didn't know that when I first started out. It was really confusing. I'm also kind of a weird person when I started this, and I'm a right-hand dominant person. But for some reason, I learned the sport throwing left-handed. And it's really weird. And so there's two techniques to throw a disc. You have the backhand, where you just come across your body, and then you have a forehand, where you flick it. And that determines what way the disc is going to try and, fly. And I can't flick with my left hand when I started, so I threw backhand with my left, and I threw a flick with my right hand. But that means they go the same direction. And so my friend told me that I need to stop that. So, but I came into this sport not really, thinking I knew and I understood what was going on, but not understanding how complex this sport actually is. And as I mentioned before, my friend said it's a cheap and easy sport to get into. He lied on both those aspects, because each of these costs like $20. And I like shiny things, and there's a brand that makes really shiny discs. My wife doesn't want you guys to know how much money I've spent on this, and I don't want her to know, but it is a lot of money for some plastic circles. But it's what I did during COVID, and it was really fun, and I still play a lot, and I got her a set. Don't tell her how much that cost too. But we go out and play together, and she's just as slow as learner as I was, so. But it goes to show that we can see something as simple as just a plastic circle and think we can understand it, but how much detail and how much goes into what it actually is and what it does. And to bring that into our story, I'm going to be in the book of Job today. It is personally my favorite book of the Bible. I connect with it so well, and I love it. And so we're going to do some reading today in it and kind of walk through his life. So if you want to follow along with me, I'm in Job 1:1. There was a man in the land of Uz whose name was Job. And that man was blameless and upright, one who feared God and turned away from evil. There were born to him 7 sons and 3 daughters. He possessed 7,000 sheep, 3,000 camel, 500 yoke of oxen, 500 female donkeys, and very many servants. So that this man was the greatest of all the people of the East. His sons used to go and hold a feast in the house of each one on his day. They would send and invite their 3 sisters to eat and drink with them. And when the days of the feast had run their course, Job would send and consecrate them. And he would rise early in the morning and offer burnt offerings according to the number of them all. For Job said, "It may be that my children have sinned and cursed God in their hearts." Thus Job did continuously. See now, Job was a righteous man who loved God and feared God. And then we have an angel. It calls him the Satan. In Greek, it's named the accuser, is what we get it from. And so they're holding council up in heaven. And this angel says, "Have you not thought of your servant Job as blameless?" And basically saying that if Job, the only reason Job follows God is because God has given him everything. So there's no reason not to follow him. And the accuser says that if you just take it all away from him, that he wouldn't follow you anymore. And so it goes on. Now there was a day when the sons and daughters were eating and drinking wine in their oldest brother's house. And there came a messenger to Job and said, "The oxen were plowing and the donkeys feeding beside them, and the Sabines fell upon them and took them and struck down the servants with the edge of the sword. And I alone have escaped to tell you." While that servant was yet speaking, there came another and said, "The fire of God fell from heaven and burned up the sheep and servants and consumed them. And I alone have escaped to tell you." While he was yet still speaking, there came another and said, "The Chaldeans formed 3 groups, made a raid on the camels, and took them and struck down the servants with the edge of the sword. And I alone have escaped to tell you." And yet, while he was still speaking, another servant came and said, "Your sons and daughters were eating and drinking wine in the oldest brother's house. And behold, a great wind came across the wilderness and struck the 4 corners of the house, and it fell upon the young people, and they are dead. And I alone have escaped to tell you." Then Job arose and tore his robe and shaved his head and fell to the ground and worshipped, as he said, "Naked I come from my mother's womb, and naked I shall return. God giveth, God taketh. Blessed be the name of the Lord." Now, that verse has always rattled in my head. I love it, because I want to be like that. When we have everything taken away from us, and yet we remain faithful. Job just lost everything he held dear in his life. All of it gone. And he fell to his knees and prayed. Now, I can't say he lost completely everything. The accuser did leave behind his wife, but we find out later that's not really that good. Sorry, women out there, but Job's wife was someone. All right, let's move on. Job 2. Again, there was a day when the sons of God came to present themselves before the Lord, and Satan came among them to present himself before the Lord. The Lord said to Satan, "From where have you come?" And the Satan replied, "From wandering the earth. Have you not thought of your servant Job, who is blameless and upright, who fears God and turns away from evil? He still holds fast to his integrity, although you incited me against him to destroy him without reason." Without reason. That one always gets me, the without reason. All this happening to Job without reason. Then the Satan answered the Lord and said, "Skin for skin, all that a man has, he will give away for his life. But stretch out your hand and touch his bone and his flesh, and he will curse you to your face." And the Lord said to the Satan, "Behold, he is in your hand. Only spare his life." Do anything you want to him, just spare his life. And so the Satan went to the presence of the Lord and struck Job with the loathsome sores from head to toe, boils, just all from the crown of his head to the bottom of his feet. Just boils everywhere. And so Job took some pottery he had from all the ruins and scraped his skin because it hurt so bad. And this is why I said the accuser left the wife behind wasn't so good. Then his wife said to him, "Do you still hold fast to your integrity? Curse God and die." But he said to her, "You speak as one of the foolish women would speak. Shall we receive good from God, and shall we receive not evil?" And all this Job did not sin with his lips. So now Job lost everything he held dear in his life, and then he became sick. And now the only person he has left in his life is telling him to turn away from God. He is at the lowest of lows in his life. And I feel like we've all felt like we're in our lows. We've all had our things, the things we work for, at one point or another, start to slip away from our hands. We've all been there. We've all grown sick. We've all had people tell us to turn away from this religion. But yet, we don't. We follow in Job's footsteps. I can't say that I've lost everything in my life. I haven't lived a long enough life yet. But, we still all fall on tragedy. And I had a situation where I felt like I was losing everything. And it was when I was younger. My biological father left when I was 3 years old. And growing up, I just felt like I was always losing something, losing out on life, losing out on memories, always asking God, why me? We've all been there on situations like that. And so that's why this is why Job resonates with me, and I really feel for him. And I love his story because no matter what we're going through, we just fall to our knees and pray to God. Because God gives, God takes. Blessed be his name. To move on with the story, Job's 3 friends that he finds closest, and these are righteous men, God-fearing men. His 3 friends find out what has happened, and they come to him, and they sit in silence and prayer. And then after a while, the silence and prayer breaks, and his friends are there to support him and talk to him. And this sounds great. It really does. And I hope we all have a support system that helps us when we are feeling like Job. But as I read earlier, when I said, all of this without reason to Job, all of this happened, and Job didn't do anything to cause it. But that's not how our minds work, is it? We always have to have a reason for things. And that's what his 3 friends started to do. Job was there with nothing left in this world. And then his 3 friends, day after day, started saying, you must have sinned. You must have turned away from God. You did something horribly wrong. And day after day after day, Job would have to defend himself. And now I physically can get angry at this because I have a pet peeve in life where I hate being told I did something when I didn't, but I have no proof to show my innocence. And, well, my mom didn't really like the government saying of innocent until proven guilty in our house. I was just guilty. So it didn't really help my case of why I don't like this idea of what his friends are doing. But I can't always say that I didn't use it to my advantage. I have an older sister, and when we were still living in Fairbury, Nebraska, she did something to me. And I'm an outdoor guy. I like being at my friend's house. But she did something that made me mad, and I probably did something to her, and she tattled on me, right? And so I was grounded, and I couldn't go to my friend's house anymore. And so I was furious. Like, I loved being outside, and being stuck in my room just sucked. And, well, I decided to get payback, And so I was just grounded, sitting in my room, waiting for my mom and my sister to fall asleep, acting like I'm sleeping so they don't expect me. And so my mom falls asleep, and then my sister falls asleep, and I wake up. I get out of the bed, and I find the Sharpie marker, right? Yeah, it gets worse. So I have this Sharpie marker, right? And I take it, and I go up to my bedroom door, and I write my sister's name on it 100 sometimes. Just wrote it all over my door. Now, I ruined that door, and I feel bad for my mom. I didn't realize how much doors cost at the time. But we woke up the next day, and my sister was grounded. She was grounded so hard, and she was told that she did this thing when she didn't. And she tried defending herself, and it didn't work. I came clean like 2 years ago. So, weight lifted off my shoulders, so. Yes, set me free. But we go on and through 35 chapters of the book of Job, and this is why the book of Job is honestly pretty hard to read and talk about. It's because for 35 chapters, it's Job talking to his friends through poems and laments, talking about, oh, you did something wrong. Oh, no, I didn't. And so it's harder to read and stuff, but it's just going through, talking about what they did wrong, and then him defending himself. And so Job's world has fallen apart. Everything he has gained and achieved has been taken away from him. Everything. As some time goes by, they start talking about how just God is, how his justice is, and this is why, these righteous men, this is why they're blaming Job, because God is just. He doesn't do anything without reason, is what they're claiming. And this is a messy story because it seems like there's no right answer to whose side these guys are on, because they're fighting for God, but against Job, even when they're not trying to. And so day after day, these friends are coming, and they keep doing this. And day after day, Job defends himself. But after days of this, Job starts to get mad and frustrated. And so he cries out to the Lord, "Why, God? Why me?" That's what I say when things aren't going my way in life when I was younger. Why, God? Why are you doing this to me? Why am I grounded and not my sister? Why are these things happening to my family? Why did my dad leave when I was young? We ask all these questions. Why God? Why me? And God's response is great. And it's long. But we're going to read it. If I botch any pronunciations, I am very sorry. This is Job 38. Then the Lord answered Job out of the whirlwind and said, "Who is this that darkens counsel by words without knowledge? Dressed for action like a man, I will question you and make it known to me. Where were you when I laid the foundation of the earth? Tell me, if you have understanding, who determined its measurements? Surely you know. Or who stretched the line upon it? On what were its bases sunk? Or who laid its cornerstone? When the morning stars sang together and all the sons of God shouted for joy? Or who shut in the sea with doors when it burst out from the womb? When I made clouds its garment and thick darkness its swaddling band, and prescribed limits for it, and set bars and doors, and said, thus far shall you come, and no farther. And here shall your proud waves be stayed. Have you commanded the morning since your days begun, and caused the dawn to know its place, that it might take hold of the skirts of the earth, and the wicked be shaken out of it? It is changed like clay under the seal, and its features stand out like a garment. From the wicked their light is withheld, and their uplifted arm is broken. Have you entered into the springs of the sea, or walked in the recess of the depth? Have the gates of death been revealed to you, or have you seen the gates of deep darkness? Have you comprehended the expanse of the earth? Declare it if you know this. Where is the way of the dwelling light? And where is the place of darkness? That you may take it to its territory, and you may discern the path to its home. You know you were born then, and the number of days is great. Have you entered the storehouses of the snow, or have you seen the storehouses of the hail? Which I have reserved for the time of trouble, for the day of battle and war. What is the way to the place where the light is disrupted, or where the east wind is scattered upon the earth? Who has cleft a channel for the torrents of the rain, and the way of the thunderbolt, to bring rain on a land where no man is, on the desert which there is no man, to satisfy the waste and desolate land, and to make the ground sprout with grass? Has the rain a father? Or who has begotten the drops of dew? From whose womb did the ice come forth? And who has given birth to the frost of heaven? The waters become hard like stone, and the face of the deep is frozen. Can you bind the chains or loose the cords of Orion? Do you know the ordinances of the heavens? Can you establish their rule on earth? Have I lost all of you guys in this reading? I can keep reading for 3 more chapters. I'm going to save you guys a little bit. But I did that to make a point. And I would have kept reading, but I think you guys started to get it. There's so much that God has done and is doing that we can't even comprehend. God was being just flat out honest with Job there, saying that you do not know what it takes. You do not know what it's like. You are not God. You don't need to understand what is happening. You don't need to understand why it is happening. And I get it. Job cried out, "Why me? Why God?" Because he had all this happen without reason. But God here is saying he doesn't need a reason. Things are happening. God understands it, and God has a reason. As humans, we don't need to. And so God also goes on to talk about the mighty beast that he has created and how much that takes into account to just everything from living animals, mighty beasts, to the rain, the land, to time and space. God understands it, and we do not. We can find it hard to not understand. I do. Last time I was here, I mentioned to you guys how my first niece was a stillborn death. I didn't understand at the time. I still don't understand why we have that in our life, why we have that in our world. I don't understand. I'm not here to tell you guys that I do. And when I have people come up to me and ask me why I serve a God that has evil in this world, the best I can do is say, I don't need to understand. I don't understand. But I know he understands, and he has a reason. I can't make pain go away. I can't make evil go away. I can't take all the evil back that's in this world. And I can't understand it all myself. But we're not meant to understand it. This is what God is trying to tell Job in these 3 long chapters. God is telling Job that he didn't need to understand it. We can't comprehend or imagine everything that's going on at this world all at once. We can stand here and wonder, why God? Why me? Why are you doing this? We just have to know. We don't need to know why we suffer because we couldn't understand it, even if we tried. Even if God told him why he was making him suffer, allowing the accuser to test him, we might not even understand and comprehend what the reason is, because it's beyond our imagination. It's beyond our understanding. But what we do need to understand is to trust in the Lord, because he has it. He has the reason. He has the comprehension. He has the understanding. And I know it's hard. It's really hard, because evil is all around in our world. It just sucks. But God's there. And God has a reason. And God has an understanding. And he's working in ways throughout the world that we can't even see or understand to see. I pray that all of you guys, that we can be more like Job in the beginning. That when evil comes our way, we're there for God. We tear our robe, we fall to our knees, and we don't run away from him, even when evil comes. So when we run away, we're giving in to the evil. And we can't be doing that. If you please bow your heads in prayer with me. Lord, be with us. We need you. Lord, give us the strength that you've given us in the past. Continue to give us that strength, Lord, as we need it. Be with all of us. Please, Lord. We need you here. We need you with us. Naked, I came from my mother's womb, and naked I shall return. God gives, and God takes. Blessed be the name of the Lord. Amen.